welcome back. For this episode of the Milk Your Brand podcast, we have Mariana Barbosa. And where should I start? She has so much going on. Mariana is a member of the board of directors of Chicas Poderosas, author of a book, regular newspaper contributor, and also likes to see herself as a storyteller. Hi, Mariana. How are you?
Hello, Katrina. I'm well. I'm okay. Thank you for the invitation for having me here. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to add something else? I mean, you have so much going on, so feel free to,
Yes,
feel free to promote yourself.
I'm a storyteller. I frequently say that I am a storyteller because it adds something to what I do. I've been a journalist for 12 years.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, I decided to go to the dark side, they say,
To the corporate side.
Yes, to the corporate side. But I'm not sure there's a good side and a bad side. So I tell stories. That's what I am.
Awesome. So today we're going to dig deep into how companies can use media outlets for brand awareness, because Mariana's experience is awesome for this kind of episode. Why? Because she was a journalist for so many years, and then she joined the company and started doing PR for the company. So how can we leverage media for our companies? I will start with the first question, and it is: how can you build relationships with journalists and reporters in the industry? Because I've done an internship when I was starting out in media. It was press relations also, and I could see that some companies have like contracts with PR agencies to get access to media outlets. But when I joined the company, I found myself looking for media opportunities on my own because we didn't have the budget for a PR agency. So how do we build relationship with the journalists and how to get there, basically?
Well, back to the basics, I often consider these relationships between journalists and PR persons like those ones I've been working on since ever in my life. So the first thing is to consider that relationships are long-term relationships, long-term processes. So you have to plant the seed, water them, have patience to see them grow, water again, and finally look at them as an ongoing process. This means that you have not a secret recipe on building relationships. If you don't nurture them with lots of care, respect, and attention, they will not work. I worked as a journalist, as you said, for 12 years, writing about startups, about entrepreneurs, and about innovation since day one of this ecosystem. And when I turned to a PR and comms responsible at Coverflex, I learned a lot about how I am at the other side. So
exactly.
I worked as a journalist and then I moved to the other side. And it's not only about the story of a new company or a first time entrepreneur story. It's about the process, about the journey you have been through, about competing with other subjects at that day, the day you decide to communicate your story. So even if the story is important for you or for your team, even though the story is so special and it's like a process that you've been through for months, it's not that way that will be valuable or important to a media outlet that you pitch to. It's about what people want to tell. It's about their ambition. It's about the subject they are interested in, the public in general, and how you convince people to share your path and trust your story. But it's about also about the public what the public wants to know, the importance of the subject itself, about the numbers you want to communicate, to share, about the way you decide to tell your story, and even about the words you choose to tell the story.
Okay.
In this relationship between journalists and PR and about companies, it's about, I believe that it's about building trust, about building a relationship um, based on truth, on honesty, on authenticity, and building the relationship from scratch. So you have to build this context since day one, and you have to decide what story to tell, and then communicate it, and adapt this message to each journalist, to its media outlet. It's
Yeah.
not that you tell the same story to everyone, and everyone can see the same thing in that story. So you have to adapt. You have to adapt to the public. You have to adapt
Yeah.
to the journalists, and yeah, that's it.
How do you think people should approach journalists? Because when I was starting, once again, I knew some journalists, but only like from LinkedIn, from seeing them posting online, and I was like, okay, now I want to start engaging with them. How can I do it? And I started, for example, by sending them a LinkedIn message, like being 100% honest about what I was looking for, seeing, of course, also like, can we provide some value to your magazine or to your journal? Because we were like, okay, we don't want to be perceived that, oh, look, here you have the news, now post it. No, it was like, how can we help? How can we be of value to you? And then
That's
we
a good
present
way.
the
That's a good way to make the first move, because
okay.
it depends on a journalist, I would say.
Yeah.
As a journalist, I was a really open one. So if people go and try to talk to me in events, for example, or in an email, like they are very naive, for example, because entrepreneurs are not used to tell their stories, for example, and I sometimes I push them to tell the story myself. So with honesty, it's a good way to approach. Empathy is one of the main valuable pitches ever. If you tell your story and that story can touch someone, you already won, because people are touched for your story. At CoverFlex, for example, to talk about my previous experience, I validate a strategy that I believe in. Good stories are the secret sauce for a company, and everyone has a story that is worth to be told. So what you have to decide is which details you want to share, which story, which words you want to share. We also benefit at CoverFlex of a world where trends such as the future of work, remote work, financial independence.
Your topic was so trendy. Yeah, it was so trendy. It was like sexy,
it is.
Like for me, it's so hard to communicate maintenance. Like maintenance is awesome. It should be done. It needs to be done. If no one does it, we are in trouble. But it's not sexy to sell,
But there's always sexiness in something. You have to find out the way to tell that sexiness.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember once at when I worked at Dinheiro Vivo, the
newspaper,
the director, the newspaper, the director André Macedo said to me, "You have to put sexiness in that company that is Cutipol, that produces spoons and that kind of things. So you have to make them sexy." And in some way, I learned about to put sexiness in everything you write, because you have to find out the way to tell the story. So sexiness is in the words you choose. Sexiness is in the details you share. At CoverFlex, of course, we were talking about literacy, financial freedom. We were talking about remote work. We were talking about flexibility. So everyone is talking about that right now. The way we see the world is a special way to get there. CoverFlex product is a freedom source. It has to be with fun, I said, and we've benefit for that. But about effective ways to pitch brand stories, well, I think that there's no such thing as a perfect recipe. But of course, you can work on a good email title. We can work on a good coffee invitation. Numbers are always good friends for journalists and
Yeah.
their editors. Of course, when journalists are pitching stories to their editors, they have to defend their story. They have to fight for that story. So if they have details, if they have numbers, they are more capable to sell the story to their editors. Details on stories, predictions to the future are valuable.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
this kind of details are valuable and are important for you when you are pitching the story. But you always have to try to find a way to build sexiness in your brand. So that's a
Yeah.
good exercise, and you always will find a way, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree because, and not only because we have to adapt the narrative or create the narrative to become sexy, but also like to me, maintenance might not be sexy because I'm not the target audience. So for people working in maintenance, it might be sexy for them. So it's also subjective. Yeah, and that's is also a good point to like select the medias that make sense because
Yes, of course.
but
You should first of all you should map all the media outlets that are interesting for you to tell your story, and the story depends on the media outlets you are trying to reach.
exactly.
So if you have like more numbers to tell, you should go to economic and financial newspapers. If you are building a solution to lifestyle, for example, or to you should go for brands that writes about lifestyle and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, you should go. At Coverflex, we were talking about three different media outlets. We were talking about economic ones because that's it.
Yeah.
We were entrepreneurs. We have a entrepreneurial story to tell, and we are Portuguese, so Portuguese media outlets are interested in us. Then we were at HR focused products, so we would go for several issues to that media outlets, and then to generalists because it has to be with people. We
Yeah.
were a B2B company, but it's a B2B2C, so it's always about the consumer. It's always about the client. It's always about employees that we were talking about. So
Yeah.
we had three different channels we want to approach, and for some news we go to all of them with the same press release if you want, and sometimes we would go for one or two, not the three of them.
Exactly. I also agree with that because sometimes you want to communicate in a generalist media outlet, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like for employer branding, like if I want to reach, I don't know, tech engineers, if you want to reach engineers, like why should you go to, I don't know, a generalist that might not give you what you're looking for. Like a journalist will give you everything, everything and more, and that's not good sometimes. Because if
No.
you're looking for senior profiles in engineering, like there are other platforms that are better suited for that. But if
Yes.
you want to expand your image as a company, maybe a
Like the
generalist
brand
is a good.
awareness. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. And also when you are going to a media outlet that is not capable to tell the story you want to tell, you are burning contacts. So you are fueling the email and the contacts with the nonsense information to them.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it.
Yes, that's actually a question that wasn't planned, but I want to ask: if we spam journalists with random information, will they block us?
I never blocked anyone, but I wrote several emails with tone of voice like
Oh,
very, because when you are writing about entrepreneurs and startup for 10 years, and there's someone in a PR agency or a company not often happens, but in a, because sometimes companies change PR agencies, so they are working with one and then they go and work with another one, and sometimes happens that the new PR agency pitches you the story that you wrote 2 years ago.
Ah,
And
okay.
it's like, oh my God, do your job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happened to me twice, 3 times, I don't know. And I wrote an email sharing the link of the piece I wrote 2 or 3 or 4 years ago about the same subject that
Yeah.
they were pitching me. So yeah,
Okay.
sometimes you have to do that because yeah, people have to do their work, right?
And you did something. I mean, you were nice because some don't even answer. They're like, oh,
Yes.
they put you in the blacklist, and it's like, if this guy or a
I
girl
don't
is
know.
contacting
I
me,
doubt. I doubt that journalists have time right now to do that, like to cancel the contacts or
yeah,
to put them on the blacklist because they are so full of
full of work.
things to
Yeah,
do. So, yeah. So it's very easy to be on like a box with no end. So yeah,
yeah,
when you are using a contact, you have to make it work,
yeah.
right?
I have also a question. Is a doubt, and you can share your advice to other people, especially the ones that are in small companies, because most of the times people in small companies don't have a budget to invest in PR agencies
Yeah.
and so on. But most of the times in those small, medium companies, what happens is, and what happened to me too when I was working there, is I can have sometimes I have news to share, right? And I write to a journalist and have that talk and they publish. But
Mm-hmm.
then I ghost town because I don't have any more news and I don't want to piss off the journalist because I don't want to be always, a pain in the ass. Like, oh, can you post this? Oh, can you post? Like, I don't want to be that person. So what is your advice? Because sometimes it feels like you're doing the first introduction, like every time
Every
you
time you
exactly because
every time
it's
you go,
so
you
spaced
make the
out.
same.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is your advice for that?
Well, my advice is to continue nurturing that relationship, not only when you have the time, when you have the news to share, but or trying to have more news to share, or maintaining this like low maintenance relationship,
Yeah.
but with several like comments on the work they've been doing, or sending an email with new numbers and ask if they have interest on covering a news story or covering like this big news or new numbers. I don't know, like nurturing the relationship. It's not like you have like you are a giver always, not a taker.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should go for nurturing this relationship, because when you are on when you work on PR, you have to work on this relationship. So at Coverflex, I worked there for more than 2 years, and for 1 year and a half, I had this PR part by myself. So I
Okay.
make it all inside the company. Then we went to a PR agency, but working with a PR agency, but before I was working alone
Was it worth it,
on
by the
this.
way? Was it worth it to move for a PR agency? Was it easier to get more news?
Not in that sense. It worth it because I was working on events also, and at Coverflex we wanted a lot of events. We were organizing events, covering events and
So you wanted to focus on that
sponsoring.
and
Yes.
leave the media, like do everything else. Like
Oh yeah, I was coordinating the contents, but
Yeah.
not distributing the contents. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
And we did well. Yeah, we did good.
I mean, yes, you were all over the news. So I was like, again.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, it's okay. It's okay because it's an awesome company. So
Thanks.
Okay, so the next one, I think you cover most of it, but share if you have more.
I have topics here
about so again, companies with low budget, limited budget, how can they do this? How can they go out and spread their message and build their brand?
Yeah. One of the things I usually share when I give tips on startup and ecosystem events, for example, because I used to work with startup Lisboa, for example, startup Portugal, on giving their like talks and that kind of things,
like workshops,
sharing my workshops, sharing my expertise, or I don't know. And there's basics that you can go for by yourself without a PR agency, or before you hire a PR agency to work with you. These are clear language is very important. So if you short sentences when you are building the PR announcement, pitch your story right, try to find some details that are funny or that are important for the path. Be always ready to share numbers and other details. This is very mathematical process, because when you create a PR announcement, you have to have like the big news on the top, like the title, and then develop the information and give people a voice or a face. Choose a spokesperson. At Coverflex, I used to choose different people for different areas. Okay. So if we would go to a product announcement, I will go for Joana, for example, which is the product manager. Then if we go to like a brand awareness or employer branding, we would go to with the people from people team. And international announcement, we would go for the CEO. And in a local announcement, we will go for the country manager, for example. So choose people, different people. To this was our strategy. So
I think it's good for diversity too. So not that's the
why,
same person talking. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes. You find people capable to speak louder, and then people find themselves capable to have a public voice on what they are doing. They get responsible for what they are building, and they are like, yep. it's like a system you create. So it's good for the company, because people get to know more people. And in this case at Coverflex, we are remote, so if you go for announcements with other people than a CEO, you go and you meet more profoundly the person you choose. So it's very nice to make this. And with the limited budget, I would say this is the basics. Ask for help with peers. If you are like a founder, ask for help to the incubator you are into, or to peers, to other founders that are more aligned with the company. Try to promote or to communicate your values, your vision on the company, and be like straight to the subject you are trying to communicate. Yeah, I would say that.
Good, awesome insights. Like if you're listening, take a listen. Hi, a curious listen to this because there's a lot of nice stuff being shared here. Okay, so right now I have a game that you weren't aware of. Dun, dun, dun.
Surprise.
Surprise. But this is actually a good one, okay? And a
Okay.
good one and a simple one too. So the game is love or spill the milk. So I will say two sentences, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you can either love them or spill the milk. So if you don't agree with the sentences, at like it can be like you can agree. Well, you can agree, but if you think there's a bit that you need to share, spill the milk. So companies should buy media spaces if they can do it organically.
No, never. I trust on good stories, so I don't trust on building a brand on buying space.
Like the
on
best
the
milk
outlets.
and then sponsored by a milk
Never.
company.
No. I would say know your numbers, know your story, and share. Spread it out. Yeah.
Okay, but that leads to a great question. Like, but should we have a paid media relationship somehow? Like, when does that work?
I think that works on building content. I mean, if you are sponsoring content on webinars, for example, or on events, or on creating like ebooks or other types of content,
Like
I agree
sharing
with that.
valuable content, like
Yes.
that. Not necessarily. There's no like at the end, and please buy this. Like it's something like to give value to the reader and not promotional stuff.
Yes,
You know?
to build community.
Yeah.
If you are nurturing your community, I agree with that. If not, if just pay for paying, I'm not into it. No.
Okay. The next
But I'm a
one.
storyteller.
Exactly. No, but I think most people will agree with that. Like it's like that example. Like if a milk company is doing like a story about being the best milk, like having the best milk, but then people see that it's being sponsored by a milk company, is like, of course it's the best one. You're the one paying for the article.
Yes, that I don't think that builds like awareness of the brand. That builds like, I don't know,
Like people may
a sense of injustice, and
exactly. They're like, huh? Sorry.
What? Of course it has. Yeah.
Maybe it can do the opposite effect. And the second sentence is actually related to that. All media is good media.
Okay. No, it's not.
I love
It's
that you
not.
were like, is it? You were
No,
thinking.
all media it's not good media. But you have responsibility on that. So you always the storyteller always have responsibility on that. So what you can do is to build a story that people want to know, people want to tell. So if you build that story, building that story is not creating a story, but decides how to tell the story. So if you build that story, I think people will want to know about you and about your purpose and about your vision, and that creates awareness, that creates sympathy. If
But
you
and sorry for interrupting, but
it's
what
okay.
if it's unwanted news, like news that sometimes it
You should
happens,
go,
like
yeah.
companies do shits and sometimes
Yes,
media
yes,
they take advantage of on that, and they make a negative
yes. It's
content.
difficult to manage. I never been into a situation like that, but it's as a PR, as a journalist, of course, I have. But what I would say in this case is the first move would be to choose to make the first move, the first move or the second move instead. If someone is telling a story that is bad for your brand, for example, you have to tell your own story. You have to be responsible for your version of the story. So with today's challenges, it is difficult to control when you are in a damaging hurricane for your brand. But prepare yourself inside the company with a good spokesperson with the information that is valuable for the process. For example, for people to understand what has been doing. And if it's possible, be aware of the consequences and try to pitch a way to convert threats in opportunities, for example. So with a solution, with trying to solve the problem at that time. So
do you think companies should have like already like a crisis communication plan just in case? Because I feel like once a shit happens, and it can, like in social media especially, everything can turn out. And
that's true. Yeah,
because like in Portuguese we call them pink magazines. It's like the gossip ones. Like sometimes they take stuff out of context and make a very bad news about it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like it can happen for companies. And I think companies should be quick, because the more time they take to answer, the more the media outlet has time to...
The more space you have, the more space you have to misunderstandings. So that's why I was talking about making the first move, being like capable to tell your side of the story. So in that case, I would say that it depends on the strategy you built for the company. But for example, for cover flags, we used to be like doing that with humor, for example, like reacting on social media with a very polite but informal way to see things, and that worked for us. But it depends on the strategy and on the tone of voice you decided to have on your brand. So it depends. I don't nowadays I don't believe on brands that are not have a voice, a public voice on things. You have to you cannot be neutral right now, I think. So you have to have a state of something on issues that are valuable for the company, and you have to stand for them. So that's my view on this. And I think in this way we can always, with honesty and with this vision and these values very profoundly built, I think we can convert always threats in opportunities.
Awesome. I think a great example, but I don't know if do you have a TikTok? Do you have TikTok?
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Oh my God, you're missing out.
I know.
Because I follow Ryanair. I mean, it's not employer brand related, but it's they do magic on TikTok, because they of course they're communicating to a young audience.
Of course.
So that also changes. Of course, they have this flexibility in their tone of voice. But they literally mock their clients on social media, on TikTok, and clients love it. They're like, oh my God, this is so true. For example, there was a video where they were saying like, oh, look at this guy saying bad things about Ryanair, and look at him buying the next trip because it's cheap. It's the only way. So yeah, they make awesome
That's
content.
funny. That's funny, and that's sympathetic. Also, that's why they are building that right now, and that's why they sell tickets. So
basically
they are close to people.
Yeah, and they're taking their own weaknesses and make them like their selling points. That's
trends.
So
yes, that's true.
They're making trends. True. Like you need to download just to see that, and other brands, because some brands use
I'm
TikTok.
gonna do that.
Very nice. Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, so I actually have one last question before we finish, because we went back and forth with the questions, like, but I think it's
Yes.
nice because it was very natural. So the last question is, sometimes media and being on the media can be a bit hard to track. So how do you track the success of a media coverage? Like, how do you say, oh, this was successful? Like, is it the number of news that you get? How do you measure the impact it had on your company, like the brand
Mhm.
awareness? How do you measure that?
I think begins and ends with people. So of course, number of mentions is important. Tier one, tier two, tier X media outlets are important, of course, but more important is to put yourself a goal to each campaign. So attracting people to your website is important, and the number of people that you're attracting at that same week, for example, it's important. Convince people to go to your events. If you raise the number of people going to your events, that's good. Selling more, of course, because it's the end to communicate this kind of things. Raise awareness to the brands, people interacting with your posts, for example, on social media, number of followers on LinkedIn or TikTok or
But
Instagram.
how do you say that it came from that source? Like, did you had some
We
things?
tracked, yes, we
Okay.
tracked with OTM, UTMs and kind of things. We
Okay.
tracked the sources of people going from a website or from events or from forms from the state of compensation that is
But
study
did
we
you give
push it.
did you give that links to the journalist? Like, oh, use this link in the.
Sometimes, yes. But we tracked on our proper content and that kind of thing. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah, yeah, that's I think yeah, numbers are important, but more important is to go to an event and people know your name, know listen to Coverflex podcast, or went to an event and want to go to another, or heard about Coverflex.
Yeah.
So that's, and of course, the way people inside the company see the company publicly. So
Okay.
it's a reason of trust and a reason of like joy when we were published on several media. When you sell like an exclusive to several newspapers, and we went to the media. It was an important goal, and every time we go live, we yeah, we stay
So people
more
feel
together, I
proud.
think. Yes.
They're like, oh my God, my company is on the news. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mariana, thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
lovely having you here. Personally, I think it was full of insights and things that people can take and apply to their jobs, even like in employer branding, or not necessarily in employer branding, because this is like it applies to everything in general, like branding related, not only to employer branding. So yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Okay, thank you.
I'm okay. Next time, maybe. Yeah, guys. So thank you so much, Mariana. Once again, thank you for you guys listening, and see you on the other episode. Don't forget to follow Milk Your Brand podcast on socials. We are on LinkedIn. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and you can watch the episode, as you know, on the majority of the platforms. So, yeah, see you in the next episode.